Welcome to Sam Outside. I'm Sam and I'm outside. Spending time with trees. Yeah. I've never taken them for granted, right? They've been a big part of my life. I had the fortune of growing up surrounded by trees. So this is a conversation I've had more than once, but it never hurts to remind myself, remind others of, our ongoing need for trees. All right. I mean, first and foremost, we learn about trees at such a young age when we're in elementary school, and right, trees provide oxygen. Yeah, they do. Right, they living in this part of the world, they're responsible for a third of the oxygen at this latitude globally. So yeah, the miracle of photosynthesis, right? Taking the sun's energy, yeah, and converting solar energy and absorbed resources, transforming it into its own building material, its own sugars and starches, byproduct of photosynthesis to create that energy to help the tree grow, trace the amount of moisture, but also oxygen, right? So that's what we need to breathe. So that's the first thing we're taught. But yeah, there is that participation in the water cycle. So not only do they create trace amounts of moisture in the air, but they do so much more, right? So trees actually filter a significant portion of the water, right, in the soil. But more than that, they do help with flooding. Yeah, it's a hot topic in the news these days. So, in different parts of the world, depending on where those trees are, whether they're in a mangrove, they're supporting floodwaters, the impact of tides and storms, waves, things like that. But in my part of the world, right, yeah, trees do help with flooding. I live on the river, yeah, and so I know how much. But it's also soil retention, right? Their roots actually help hold soil. So when you get onto highway embankments and slopes that we've learned long ago that planting some trees, adding that berm, also helps retain the soil, right? But when we do that, also when we make an effort, we can use trees to also block noise, right? They are a natural sound barrier, and with that comes the visual barrier, right? A lot of people use privacy hedging, but in the natural world, the way they are here, they are the foundation of the food chain, right? They are the producers. So the amount of trees and the diversity of the trees is what is fundamental in the biodiversity that exists in your forest, because they are a food source, whether they produce the seeds and nuts that are consumed, which is how most of us think of trees, right? The fruit, the nuts, the seeds, but the leaf matter itself. Sometimes it's the bark, the cambium, sometimes even the root, right? They're all useful to the wildlife. And by wildlife, I mean insects and birds and mammals, right? So they are the foundation. Again, the more trees, the greater biodiversity, the greater the health and life, the biomass that you are surrounded by in forests. Right? So trees, yeah, also provide us with the capacity to greater acclimate and regulate temperature. Right? So their shade, right? The ability to retain moisture in the soil. These are all aspects of cooling small environments. But they add value in terms of the aesthetics. All right, a city or a neighborhood, a property that has more trees, maybe they stand alone, right? They're a unique specimen. They've got some age and some aesthetic, right? They're going to add to your property value, right? Not to mention the immediate healing benefits, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally, it's a big part of my channel, big part of what I do. Every tree has its unique ability, the thing it's known for, right? In the world of medicine, right? Whether that's the root, whether it's the actual wood, whether it's the fruit, nuts, or the seeds, or the chemicals that are airborne. Again, the byproduct of photosynthesis. We're talking about phytoncides or essential oils, right? They do connect with our own immune system. The trees heal. It's medicine. Yeah. It's good for our mind, it's good for our spirit, and good for our physical body. So emotionally, we are calm when surrounded by trees. And again, the more trees, the more calm, the more time among trees. They help provide scale, all right? So we look at some of these bigger trees, right? They just remind us of their tenure, all right? Their pliability, their ability to resist the storm, change. They remind us of how small and weak we are, how short-lived we are. And yet again, when we take a look at the smaller specimens, it gives us hope. It reminds us that they're just starting their journey, despite our age. Right? Climate change. Yeah. Every tree sequesters carbon out of the atmosphere, right? Carbon dioxide. And when I get older students who join me for outdoor education groups, I use trees a lot to teach math. So there are some formulas, mathematical formulas that I can use to teach children how much each tree can contribute to eliminating carbon. All right, so you measure the height, of course, the species, determine the age, plug in the formula, and that tree is responsible for so many pounds of carbon per day, per year, and on a global sense, if we keep that tree around, or if we get more trees like that, depending on the species and its age, that tree has an economic value in terms of what it's doing to help our planet, right, compared to industry that's producing it. So yeah, it's a neat little thing when kids can learn the appreciation on a global scale of the effort and work that trees do for our planet. And then it's building material. And we've learned long ago that from the root to the bark to the wood, it's all of use, right? Simple tools, building materials, right? Some of it is easy to work with than others, but they all have, their unique ability and their reasons for using them, for durability, for color. The intention behind it is just amazing. All right. So just, yeah. Look at that forest. Right? It inspires awe. Right? So I never take it for granted. Trees have so many benefits. Right? I encourage people to spend time in nature for themselves, for their healing benefits. Right? But spending time outside is one thing. Spending time in your local park, just appreciating the efforts of communities to have boulevard trees, the kind of tree that are chosen for their ability to withstand pollution, heat, stress, but then what they add aesthetically, right, to our community, to our city, to our way of life. They literally pull pollutants out of the air. Nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxide, ammonia oxides, right? So yeah, they filter the air while producing oxygen, food, shelter, habitat. And they're just beautiful, right? Doesn't take long in nature to find a unique specimen that you're just drawn to naturally. to find that reason to come back and visit it. Right? And they can remind us with just a short walk how healthy the planet still is. Despite the doom and gloom. Yeah. The forest that I'm spending time in is actually part of a university study. There are portions of this trail where the property has allowed a local organization, the Watershed Council of Muskoka, to participate in some research. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Coordinating with research and students, professors from University of Toronto, University of Guelph, Trent. They're dumping ash. Yeah, just wood ash. What it does is it reintroduces nitrogen, phosphorus, carbon, and I can see calipers on the tree that they come back and monitor soil quality for not only what's been added, but more or less to help us understand what's missing due to human effort. All right, acid rain did a lot of damage in the 1980s, still doing damage, but there are simple things we can do by adding ash. And what the research is finding is that the ash introduced in mixed forests is responsible for 20% gains. Now, in this forest, they're studying the maples, right? Maple syrup is a major export. And if I own property where I'm sucking the essence, the lifeblood out of my maples, and I know that introducing ash can benefit 20%, that's 20% growth, not just in the tree, but in its roots, its capacity to have a strong hold, but also the canopy and its health to help fight against caterpillars, pollution, contamination, disease, fungus, bacteria, those things. Well, if I can benefit my trees by 20%, I might boost my production. But also, if I've got trees along a water, if I've got trees along an embankment, you know, as a civil engineer, as a planner, as an engineer in general, by adding ash, I can boost the likelihood of the survival rate of those resources and that cost and the longevity of the planning and the efforts and the work. So yeah, it's so cool to be part of enjoying a forest where they're actually doing the research, right? So, yep, I've seen the students, I've talked to them, they're pretty excited about it. So, yeah, if you look just here on the ground where Indiana Bones is, you can see some blue tape. All right, that's where they've dumped some ash. And then right on the tree beside me, there's a small caliper. So this is the kind of thing that, all right, they're gonna measure. All right, so you can see the little strip here. So they're looking at the diameter of the tree. And, you know, once I see that tape right around the forest, once I notice the marker on the ground, it just inspires me to participate in citizen science, right? Whether it's, you know, supporting the number of initiatives, the tours, the petitions, right? My family and organizations I've worked with participating in citizen science with bird counts, right? Program through Cornell University, right? The Bird Feeder Watch program, right? Just another example of something I participate in with my family and with guests at my site. All thanks to trees. So many benefits. I haven't even begun to list them all, but that's just a short list off the top of my head. Oh, they're so good for our well-being. So good for the planet. So, I planted my share, yeah, in my youth. Spent a summer or two. Turns out I'm really good at planting trees. Like a robot. I was up to 300 a day, so that's pretty good by tree planter standards, but I worked for the Ontario governments, we were given some really easy soil to work in, right? Some really hardy trees to plant. I'd like to go back and see that forest, right? Because that was more than 30 years ago, so it would be a standing forest today rather than a clear cut. I've planted probably 100 trees on my property, and the beavers have probably taken down 50. But every year I put more, right, in the hopes of adding sound barriers, visual barriers, biodiversity to my property, add value, right? I like the act of knowing that I've participated in the change of the landscape, improved it, making it better, all right? As a species, simply couldn't be here without it, right? As a planet, right? The oceans provide a significant portion of water and air filtration and oxygen production, but pretty unique thing when you break it down anatomically and go through the chemical and other processes that happen within a tree in order to help sustain, support, create life. It's absolutely amazing. So, I find myself in awe, and I'm humbled and I'm grateful for the fact that I am surrounded by trees. All right, so go outside, spend some time in a forest, spend some time among trees, and you'll be inspired. All right. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.